Welcome to part 3 of a 3-part series on how to configure Memberium, creating a membership level, the dashboard, and the Infusionsoft control campaign. We're now going to go over part 3, which is the Infusionsoft campaign that gives access. So let me share my screen and we'll get started. So this is the website, Instituto de Negocios. If you watch part 1 and 2, you'll see exactly what it does. But I'm going to go over the control sequences for these two. These are the most recently added memberships. They correspond to 2 LearnDash courses, and I want to show you how we open those up and give people access to them when they make a purchase. So I'll go over here. This is the campaigns, and I'm going to do a search for give. We always call our campaigns give and remove access. Our standard is to create is to add the month and the year was created. It just helps us go back and remember when it is that we worked on that, when it started, especially when we might have multiple versions of these campaigns. Now, this campaign at first look might look a little more complex than is necessary, but I really want to go over why we've built this way. My background is programming. I've been a programmer for many, many years. And what I wanted to do was create a subroutine or a function that could be called to give people or remove access to a membership level. So if you look over here, we've created a very simple form with a set of radio buttons, each one corresponding to a course. So if you're an administrator and you want to give people access to any one of these, all you have to do is use this internal form. You go to the contact record, you bring this up, and by clicking on Give Access, you could give access to Dobla tu Productividad, which is one of the courses we've been reviewing, or the IMS Grabaciones. So it's as simple as that, and the reason this works is because this calls a tag, trigger Give IMS Grabaciones Access. It's a tag that we use as a tag goal in the campaign to get that access sequence started. So these are the 2 campaigns, or I'm sorry, the 2 sequences in the campaign that we're going to be referencing. And if I double click on here, you see that the tag goal corresponds to that internal form tag. Now, that's the way you would use it if it's an internal tag, but if you have some purchasing going on, you can set up a purchase goal that assigns this tag and then starts the process that way. The reason we do it this way is so that from wherever you are in Infusionsoft, you always use this give and remove access to give and remove access. You don't have access being given throughout different campaigns, which means that if there's a bug or if you want to make a change, then you have to visit a bunch of different places, which also means remembering that in order to give the access or to make the change. So if I start here, now I'm going to double click on here, and we always have a second sequence in here, which is the one that we use to remove the trigger tag. By default, in every sequence that starts with a tag goal, and we call them triggers, we always remove this automatically so that if in the future we want to call the sequence again, we can. Because remember, tag goals only work when the tag is not assigned and then becomes assigned. If you assign a tag a second time, it doesn't start the campaign sequence. Now, we're also removing the payF tag. This is a just in case, so that if the person had a pay issue, a payment failure, this tag is removed and we don't have to worry about accidentally not giving them access because this payF tag was in here. So consider this just some default code that we need to put in there in order to make sure that this works longer term. So the first thing we do in here is we give them the Memberium Dobla tu Productividad tag. This is the tag that gives them access in Memberium, and in the first lesson we saw that. Now this one then triggers another sequence in this campaign. It's the send welcome message. It's this one here. So we create a common send welcome message, which also gives them a password. we create it in one place, and that way we don't have to create it over and over again. This is useful in setups where there's a common welcome message with login credentials that's given to everybody, regardless of which membership level they purchase. We'll go over this one in a moment, where this one has a custom welcome message that's customized to this IMS Grabaciones. It can be done both ways, but this just saves you the work of having to create a unique send welcome message every time, and then also assigning the password, making sure that you do this correctly. So this is the tag that we assign them here in the DOLA to Productividad access sequence. Here you'll see that we assign a password. Now this makes a call to Memberium. My preference is to use an action set to do this. The action set makes a call to the WordPress site. It calls it in such a way that Memberium wakes up. It assigns a password, randomly generated password. It puts it into the password field in the contract record and handles that. I'm not going to go into that, read up on the Memberium documentation for that. I also don't want to show it because then there's some keys in there that kind of will invade the privacy of this account. So just in case we're waiting 2 minutes, you don't have to wait that long. 1 minute's probably enough, but just in case, we want to make sure that this call out to Memberium has enough time to set the password before we send the welcome message. The reason we want to do that is because we don't want to send the welcome message before the password has been assigned into the custom field. The symptom that's part of a problem you're having is when you have a message arrive in the member's inbox that has a blank password. Just the email went out too quickly before Memberium could do its part. So if we look in here, you'll see that, this is the email. It's got the welcome. It is in Spanish because this is a Spanish account, but right here, you'll see that this is the user ID or the username, which is the email address, and then this is the password field where we're sending them the password they can use to log in. We could also set this up so that people had an auto login link. That's just not something that this client was wanting. Now, in this case, we're waiting 30 minutes before we remove the trigger tag for this welcome. And the only reason we do that is because there's possibility in this account where multiple permissions or multiple membership levels are assigned at the same time. And we want to make sure that we don't inadvertently send out more than one welcome message, because that would be sloppy. It wouldn't look right. So we're just waiting 30 minutes, which gives the system a chance to get the welcome message out and not accidentally send more than one. If I look at the IMS Grabaciones, this one works very similarly. This one, we're only giving them access, the Memberium tag. We don't have to trigger the send welcome message because that's just the next sequence in line. This is removing access, removing the trigger tag, and it's also removing the payf tag just in case. It's the same thing we did in the previous sequence. And then we send the welcome message. This looks the same. We've already removed, well, there was no send trigger tag, so we don't have to remove it. So this just assigns the password. This one waits a minute. This one is a minute versus 2 minutes. We built this campaign at different times, and I think in the previous one there was a chance that we could have some sort of issues and delays, where here it wasn't the case. And then we send out the message that has the login credentials as you would expect. So this is the Infusionsoft Give and Remove Access campaign that we build for all of our clients. And then what we typically do is we'll build a product purchase campaign which triggers when a purchase is made through the e-commerce part of Infusionsoft. And then that calls the give access, and the follow-up sequences, or the nurture sequence that goes along with giving people access, is a part of that. There's a nice advantage to doing it that way. The complexity of the give and removing access is all in one place, and then you can keep your product purchase campaigns just a little small, a little cleaner. And then you don't have to worry about someone accidentally making changes to this campaign, which could cause you, some big trouble. So that's the end of this sequence. Hope this has been helpful. Let us know if you have any questions.